Welcome to Life's Hidden Curriculum, a podcast designed for Philadelphia teens and young adults that helps connect them to resources and information needed for adulthood. My name is Quan King, and I'm your host and curator of this content intended to get you the info and understanding necessary to make informed and smart decisions. You can find even more information on the website, lifeshiddencurriculum.com. And now, today's episode. I want to take a moment really quick and let you know that the content you're about to hear has been generated by Andrew and Izzy, AI. As such, it's always important to make sure you verify information that you get from any source, no matter how legit it sounds. I've listed all my resources and references in the archive on the website at lifeshiddencurriculum.com, so you can do your own due diligence, aka research. If you like any of these topics and want me to go into greater detail, hit me up in the comment section or send a message on the website using the contact link. All good? All right, here we go.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at a really tough topic. Firearm violence among young people in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and the sources we're drawing on, they're really trying to get past the surface level, looking for the structural root.
Not just the symptoms, but the actual causes. Right off the bat, there's this statistic that just jumps out. It's pretty grim.
It really is. Get this. Since 2020, firearms are now the leading cause of death for children and teens across the U.S.
Wow. Overtaking car accidents.
That used to be the number one killer for that age group for decades. It's a massive.
In Philadelphia specifically, the data really narrows it down.
It does. The largest group affected, the victims of shootings, they fall into the 18 to 30 age bracket.
That's 42% of all incidents, almost half.
Almost half. And then you zoom out, look internationally.
Yeah.
The U.S. is it's an outlier in the worst way. Among high-income nations, the U.S. accounts for 90% of all firearm deaths for young people.
90%. Compared to
Canada, for instance, our rate is over 9.5 times higher.
9.5 times.
Yeah.
It's not just a gap. That's a chasm.
Exactly. It points to, profound policy failure, like you said at the start.
So let's talk about those failures. The sources point to structural roots, things like historical policies. Redlining comes up.
Right. And there's a surprisingly strong link shown between those historical redlining maps and where violence is concentrated today.
So decisions made decades ago are still playing out on the streets now.
Absolutely. These are often communities that have faced, long-term systemic disinvestment, and the economic piece is crucial.
Okay.
The analysis highlights chronic unemployment. That seems to be a stronger predictor of crime, even more so sometimes than just poverty itself.
So it's not just being poor, it's the lack of stable opportunity.
That seems to be a really powerful driver, yes. That lack of hope, lack of options.
And living in that kind of environment with that constant stress, that actually affects people physiologically, doesn't it? It gets under the skin.
It literally does. Research shows chronic exposure to community violence ramps up reactivity in the amygdala.
The brain's threat detector.
Exactly. So you end up with people in a state of constant hypervigilance, anxiety. It takes a massive toll on mental health.
Which leads to this really awful cycle, this post-injury paradox.
Yeah, that's a critical piece. Someone survives a shooting, they experience trauma, PTSD symptoms, but then their desire to actually own and carry a gun increases.
Protect themselves, presumably. A learned response.
A learned self-armament response, as they put it. But look at the risk that comes with it.
There's data on that, too.
SARC data. Among young people treated in the ER for assault injuries, almost 60%, 59% reported further violent incidents within just 2 years.
Wow. Either being victimized again or involved in aggression or another firearm injury.
It's a devastating feedback loop.
So how do you break it? There must be interventions that work. The sources mention HVIP.
Yes, hospital-based violence intervention programs. These show really promising results. The evidence is quite strong.
How strong?
Well, participants in HVIPs are 6 times less likely to end up back in the hospital for another violent injury.
6 times less likely. Significant.
And 3 times less likely to be arrested later for a violent crime. So it interrupts that cycle.
Okay. Are there other strategies?
Yeah, they also mentioned things like the Philadelphia-focused deterrence strategy. That showed results, too, like a 35% drop in shootings in the areas they targeted.
So we have models that actually work.
We do. The evidence is there.
Which really brings it all together, right? The conclusion seems to be that we need a long-term commitment.
A generational commitment, really.
Yeah.
Focusing on fixing that concentrated poverty, the joblessness.
Okay, so speaking of structure and solutions,
Yeah.
one issue the analysis points out is data fragmentation. Police data, hospital trauma data, social services, they're all kind of siloed.
Right, which makes it harder to target resources effectively to see what's really working.
So here's a final thought, something to chew on. Should cities mandate combining all that data? Police records, trauma registries, social service info. Put it all in one unified system, not for, increased punishment, but solely to track needs and prove empirically which interventions are effective, forcing resources to follow the evidence, not, say, political wins.
That's a provocative question. Merging sensitive data like that raises obvious privacy concerns, but the potential benefit for targeted, effective public health policy is huge.
Something to consider as you think about this deep dive.
Thanks for listening to another episode on Life's Hidden Curriculum podcast. Please don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube as we're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. If you like this content and want to support, head over to the website, lifeshiddencurriculum.com, and click donate. Also, I'm always looking for guests to share their stories, especially if it can help the next generation. Hit me up using the contact link. Thanks again, and stay tuned for more.